Hey everyone, it's Noah with the Meta Collectors, and today we have a deck tech video. We had a lot of fun this past weekend going to CryptidCon. We got to meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, and I got to play a lot of MetaZoo at the table. And throughout the day, it was pretty prevalent that people wanted to know the decks I was playing, so I figured I would make a YouTube video or a series of YouTube videos regarding deck techs with MetaZoo, as it seems to be pretty lacking on YouTube. So that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to start off with the deck that seemed to get the most notoriety at the event itself, and that is the Frost Water Aura deck. So we're going to go over it real quick, and we're going to talk about it some. Alright, so the idea about this deck is getting a early lead and keeping a hold of that. So the primary aggressive creature in our deck is the Iliamna Lake Monster. So we play 7 copies of this card. It is 2 mana, or 2 aura, 1 colorless, 1 frost aura, 60 life points. It deals 20 damage if there's a real boat that's irrelevant to the card itself. But when it's contracted, if you have another one in play, it gains fleet. It deals 15 damage if there's a lake in play, and 15 damage if it's winter. So if you have those Terra pages in play, it deals an extra 30 damage. On top of that, it will deal 30 damage and apply 1 frozen counter. Now, the frozen counter in this deck ultimately isn't really relevant. But what is relevant is it's 30 damage, and then after it attacks, it actually ends combat. So basically, you want to aggressively play these, make sure they have fleet, give them the status Terra boost that they need, and then deal 60 damage to creatures and keep the board clear. And this stays around because it doesn't take hardly as much damage. Next up in the deck, we have our draw engine. We need ways to keep, once we've applied early pressure, we need to make sure that we keep hold of that pressure, and we need to maintain the board state. So we have Lakeworth Monster. Now this is a water aura card. It's 1 colorless, 1 water aura. Now it's really important that you notice these cards are 1 colorless and 1 of each type. That makes it a lot easier for us to be able to cast or play our beasties. So 50 life points, 20 attack. It gets a boost for forest and island. Ultimately not that relevant, because what we're really using it for is to tap it and bookmark a page. So we are going to use this card to draw cards while we keep the board aggressively clear, generate card advantage, and maintain control of the game. So we have 3 Lakeworth monsters. Next up, we have A-Mi-Kuk. A-Mi-Kuk is 2 frost mana, so it's pretty taxing on our mana base, but it's okay because the card's very powerful. It has 30 life points, which is relatively low. It's a trap. It has burrow. It gets plus 15 for the same island that Lakeworth Monster gets a boost from, and it also gets a boost from winter. It deals 20 plus damage if there's a fishing rod with an eyesight, and fishing rod happens to be on the legal list of 4th wall effects, which makes this card insane because it deals 30 damage from your Terra, 20 damage from the fishing rod, and 20 damage from its regular attack. So for the kids at home, that's 70 damage, and it's a big deal despite it having such a low life point total, because it has first strike, which means when it's defending, it will attack first. So the idea is to have Lakeworth Monster in play, gaining you card advantage, attacking their creatures down with this, or attacking them directly with this to kill them, and then holding this back as a defender to protect your Lakeworth Monster and your Iliamna Lake monsters. So this protects your board, this aggressively kills them, and this generates card advantage. So these are the 3 primary creatures. They're actually the only creatures in the deck that maintain control of the board in 3 different ways. They have 3 different aspects for you to win the game. So they're primarily important. And we have 3 of these. So that's 7 Lakeworth monsters, or sorry, 7 Iliamna Lake monsters, 3 Lakeworth monsters, and then 3 A-Mi-Kuks. Next up, we have a staple in any Frost deck. If you're going to play Frost, you need to have this card. This is Icy Paths. This is two Frost mana. Basically, you can only contract it if a creature declares an attack, but but you can do it even if it's not your turn. And you can select a new target for the attack. So say they have a way to aggressively attack down your creatures, and there's something that they can do to interact with you, or say they remove your A-Mi-Kuk from play, and they're going to come after your Lakeworth monsters. What you can do is you can Icy Paths, redirect the attack to one of their other creatures, or just redirect it to their face. At CryptidCon, I played against the Quetzalcoatlus deck, and I just basically got to redirect. At a certain point, I had generated enough advantage on board that I got to redirect all of their attacks back to their creatures or back at their face to win the game. So we're playing the full 4 copies of Icy Paths. In addition to Icy Paths, as pseudo removal / board control, we have Alaskan Vortex. This card is 4 mana, 4 aura, Frost. Destroy up to 1 target beastie by each opposing caster, and you can take up to 2 Frost spells from your cemetery, which combined aura costs of 3 or less, and place them into your chapter. So basically, it's 4 mana, destroy a beastie, grab Icy Paths, and add it back to your hand. So really, really awesome board control. Very, very powerful. Very, very good. In addition, we have a power up red, just kind of a staple in every deck. I mean, it's 3 mana, 3 aura. I've got terminology all mixed up in my head, but that's okay. You guys understand the general idea. Plus 100 life points, plus 100 damage. Just put it on a creature and go to town. Big creatures are hard to remove unless they have a direct way to do so, and power up red can just take control of the game very quickly. So very effective card, very necessary. Likewise, we have some more staples here. We have Bookmark, so we play both copies of Bookmark, generate card advantage. We have New Beginnings, just a disgustingly powerful card, egregious almost, but at the same time it's very fun to play, very fun to just generate advantage with it, and we'll talk why this is so good here in a second. And then we have Borne from the Earth. This is a card that I was originally skeptical about whenever I was first opening a product. We had talked a lot extensively with, I believe his name was Kevin, and I had mentioned that this card intrigued me and the potential for it to be very good. It's 1 colorless aura. Each caster can search the spellbook for a Terra page, contract it, and then shuffle their spellbook. The Terra is contracted counterclockwise, starting with the caster on your left, so it starts with your opponent. And then the next beastie you contract this turn costs 1 less aura for each Terra bonus it has active in the arena. And this card basically reduces the cost of your Lakeworth monsters, and at the same time makes them aggressively bigger. So this card is very, very powerful. So we play 1 copy of this, and then we play our targets. So we have a Winter. We have a River, and we'll get to why we have a River in a second. And we have Lake. So Lake makes our Lakeworth monsters bigger. Winter makes them bigger and stronger for A-Mi-Kuk. And then we have a River. And we have River in our deck because we are playing a copy of River of Time. This card costs 5 water aura, but it only costs 1 aura if we have a River in play. And the advantage of having this in your deck is massive. It's just inherently powerful, and being able to do it for 1 mana or 1 aura is kind of like insane. So it's very, very strong. So we play a copy of this to effectively pay 1 aura to take an extra turn. We have ways to cast this theoretically without it, which we'll get to in a second, but most of the time we're casting this for 1 aura, and we're just going to town on our opponent. Alright, so this is my pride and joy from CryptidCon. I got Mike to sign this Chaos Crystal. So here are our mana rocks to generate aura, or our aura facts, if you will. So we have Chaos Crystal, taps for 3. Very, very good, very aggressive. We have our Artifact Essence. We have 2 Perma Frost. This taps for Frost and Water. 0 mana. We have Mermaid Scales, 0 mana, taps for 2 water. The reason why we're like able to get away with playing all these is because a lot of our cards cost a colorless aura and an aura of a particular color. And also we have Lake Worth Monster and we have River of Time, and just having a bunch of mana really fast is pretty good, especially when you have a lot of colorless spells in regards like Power Up Red and Bookmark and New Beginnings and Born from the Earth, etc. These are very, very powerful. In addition, we have Eternal Snowflake, 0 mana. You can tap it and generate 2 Frost. And then we have a total of 5 Frost Aura. So like the dream turn, which has happened actually quite often at CryptidCon, would be you would draw your hand and then you would play some mana rocks and then cast a New Beginnings, or you would play a bunch of mana rocks and then make the New Beginnings in your opponent's hand effectively worse. So before we end the video, I want to talk about some missions. I know that immediately people might refer to this card and this one in particular not being in the deck, and let's go over why they're not. Jack Frost actually makes his way into your sideboard. He costs 5 Frost Aura, 60 life points, he has flying, and he's got the spirit trait, which means he can't be the target of attacks. If Winter's active, he costs 2 less, and when he comes in, he destroys all pages other than Winter or Snowing. Effectively, we don't really want to play this card. For one, it destroys our lake and it will destroy our river. We really don't want that to happen. We could play around it theoretically, but the card in itself isn't powerful enough to warrant that kind of play style. If we have a Winter in play, it does cost 3 mana and it can be effective, but at 5 mana, this card just doesn't really hit the mark. If we were playing Frostbites, maybe, because we could tap something down for basically 15 or put 15 frozen counters on something and just kill it. But we're not really playing that type of strategy. This card's more of like a mono Frost type card. It's actually in our sideboard in case our opponent is playing a bunch of Terra pages. This could be like a 3 mana beater that blows up all their Terra, and we can get some advantage that way. So it's in our board. Chino. Let's talk about Chino for a second. One would assume for 2 colorless and 2 frost in a 2-color deck, we could effectively cast this. And you're right, but I don't want to. Chino, 50 life points, has the immortal trait. It can't be targeted by fear, and it can't get scared, which is awesome. And then it has Frozen Fury for 15 damage, and it applies to frozen counters, and it doesn't, but the attack doesn't deal damage if its life total is 0. And you get to shuffle frost spells back into your deck if it does destroy a creature. But most of the time, Chino's life points just go to 0. He sticks in play, and he just adds frozen counters to something a lot of the time, and that's just not good enough. Like tapping a creature down or tapping a BC down on your opponent's like next turn just isn't effective enough. This card just doesn't do enough. If it was a mono Frost deck and your goal was to like make Frostbite as good as possible, absolutely this card is sweet, but it doesn't even make the sideboard in this deck. A couple of other cards to think about. We have Copy Cup, being able to copy Lightning in the Bottles or Smoky Spirits, pretty nice. Extra A-Mi-Kuks for your sideboard, also relatively good. Caster Center MD is fantastic in regards to removing Paralyze, Scared, or Sleep counters. Land tax, if you're an aggressive deck, I would recommend playing this because you get to destroy their Terra page and or creatures and deal a bunch of extra damage. So if you're an aggressive deck, you'd probably rather have this, say, over Destroy Terra. Absorb Aura, obviously fantastic. 0 mana, pop their thing, draw a card, replaces itself. Very good. If you're playing best of 3, maybe just put it in your sideboard, but if you're playing best of 1, absolutely probably come prepared with this in your main deck. Feign Death, good card, helps against the board wipes, Flood the Earth, and Friends. And then Tribe Triad, 2 colorless mana. You can choose Fearsome Beastly Creature, and they remove all tribes and lose all traits and effects until end of the turn, and that's very, very helpful in certain matchups. So that's what we have today for this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Hopefully you got some insight in regards to MetaZoo and competitive play. I will be posting more deck lists and deck ideas on the channel soon, so keep posted. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please put it in the comment section. If you have any ideas or anything you'd like to see in particular, give us a type you would like to see. We'll get the deck list uploaded. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is the Meta Collector, and my name is Noah, and I am signing out. Thanks, guys.